Today.
Loved ones of the 17-year-old victim packing the courtroom, and Local 10's Leanne Motohong is live in Miami with what happened in court. Leanne.
Jahara Malik pleaded guilty to 2 counts, including manslaughter. Her attorney says that this is a sign that she wanted to take accountability, that she's remorseful for her role in what happened that day. But the victim's mother believes that this defendant is not sorry.
Do you still wish to enter into this change of plea?
Yes. Jahara Malik, now 18 years old, pleading guilty Monday to charges of manslaughter and carrying a concealed weapon.
Before this story ever made the news, before the protests and the courtrooms and the tears, there was just a boy. A 17-year-old boy named Marcus Remy Cole, living his life in the West Side district of Atlanta, Georgia. Remy was the kind of kid you noticed, not because he was loud or trying to be seen, but because of the way he moved on that football field. He played running back for Jefferson High School, and if you ever watched him play, you understood why his coaches believed in him. He was fast. He was focused. And when he carried that ball, it felt like the whole crowd held their breath. Off the field, Remy was just a teenager figuring out life. He lived in an apartment complex over on Maple Ridge Road and 42nd Avenue, a quiet neighborhood where people knew each other by name. He had his friends, his football dreams, and like most kids his age, he had his first real relationship. But by the time late 2024 came around, that relationship had started to fall apart. Something had shifted between him and the girl he had been seeing. And somewhere in his heart, Remy had reached a decision. He wanted to move on. That decision, that quiet, personal choice a teenage boy made about his own heart, would become the beginning of something none of us could have imagined. When I think about Remy now, I don't think about the case or the courtroom. I think about a 17-year-old kid with a bright future, wearing his jersey on game day, running like he had somewhere important to be. Because he did. He had a whole life ahead of him. And somehow, none of us knew how little time was left. The moments no one else sees. The conversations that happen behind closed doors. The feelings that build up slowly until they can't be ignored anymore. Remy and Destiny had been together for a while. And for a time, maybe it was good. Maybe there were moments that felt real and warm. But by the end of 2024, whatever they once had was beginning to crack. Remy had made his feelings clear. He wanted out. He wasn't angry. He wasn't cruel. He simply didn't want to continue the relationship. That's a hard thing to hear when you're on the other side of it. Anyone who has ever been through a breakup knows that feeling, that desperate hope that maybe the other person will change their mind. But Remy's mind was made up. What happened after that decision is where things start to get complicated. Because when one person is ready to walk away and the other person isn't, the space between those two feelings can become dangerous. Not always. Not for everyone. But sometimes it does. There's no record of any major incident between Remy and Destiny in the days leading up to December 20th. What we know is simply this. 2 teenagers who had once cared for each other were now standing on opposite sides of something. One was letting go. The other wasn't ready to let go yet. And that tension, that unresolved hurt, was quietly building towards something neither of them could take back. And before the story continue, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more crime story. It was supposed to be just another evening. Remy was at home, near his apartment complex on Maple Ridge Road. It was the kind of night that doesn't feel significant while you're living it. No warning signs in the sky. No feeling that something is wrong. Just a regular December evening in Atlanta. Then Destiny arrived. The 2 of them met in the parking garage of the complex. And whatever conversation they had there, whatever words were exchanged, we know it became an argument. It escalated. Voices were raised. Old wounds were opened up in the way that only 2 people who once loved each other can open them. And then a knife appeared. According to the investigation, Destiny stabbed Remy in the chest during that argument in the parking garage. The act was sudden. It didn't last long. There was no drawn-out fight, no prolonged struggle according to available reports. Just a moment. One terrible, irreversible moment. Remy collapsed. I want you to pause here and really feel the weight of what I just said. A 17-year-old boy. A football player with dreams and a future. He went into that parking garage for what might have been one last conversation, one last attempt to resolve things. And he never walked out on his own again. This is the part of the story that never gets easier to tell, no matter how many times you go over it. Because it didn't have to end this way. It should not have ended this way. And the long wait for justice. After the stabbing, Destiny did not run. She stayed. She called for help. She said later, through her defense, that she had tried to assist Remy while waiting for emergency services to arrive. Paramedics came. They rushed Remy to the hospital, but the wound was too deep, too severe. Despite everything the medical team did, Marcus Remy Cole died from his injuries. And then came the part that broke his family's heart all over again. Destiny was not arrested right away. Days passed, then weeks. Then more than a month went by, and no charges had been filed. The explanation that had been given to investigators was that the stabbing was accidental, that they had been playing around with a knife, just fooling around, and things went wrong.
Horseplay, she said. Horseplay.
Remy's family heard that word, and they could not accept it. How do you tell a mother that her son's death, a stab wound to the chest, was just a game gone wrong? How do you expect a family to sit quietly with that explanation while the person responsible walks free? They didn't sit quietly. They organized. They marched. They stood outside the district attorney's office in Atlanta and demanded answers. They demanded accountability. Their voices grew louder, and more people joined them because this case was no longer just about one family's grief. It had become a question about whether justice moved differently depending on who was asking for it. Finally, after more than a month, charges were filed. Destiny was 17 years old at the time of the incident, but she was charged as an adult. The charge: manslaughter with a deadly weapon. She was placed on house arrest, not in a jail cell but at home, monitored by GPS, allowed to attend school and legal appointments. Remy's family felt that decision deeply. They had lost their son, and the person they held responsible was sleeping in her own bed. The case stretched on for nearly 2 years. 2 years of court hearings. 2 years of Remy's family showing up, speaking out, refusing to be forgotten. 2 years of a community watching and waiting. And then, in March of 2026, something shifted. Destiny changed her plea. She stood before the court and pleaded guilty to manslaughter. There would be no trial. No witnesses called to the stand. No jury deliberating in a back room. Just a guilty plea and the acknowledgement that her actions had ended a life. Now, here is where we stand today. The judge has the final word on sentencing. Destiny faces 2 very different possible futures depending on what that judge decides. Under a youthful offender sentence, she could serve up to 4 years in prison. Under the maximum sentence allowed by law, she could face up to 30 years. Sentencing is scheduled for May 5, 2026. Remy's family is still waiting. They have been waiting since December 20th, 2024. They have been waiting through the silence of those first weeks, through the protests, through the court appearances, through the guilty plea. And they're still waiting now for a number, for a sentence, for some legal acknowledgement that their son's life was worth more than a word like horseplay. I think about Remy a lot when I sit with this story. A 17-year-old running back from Atlanta. A kid who just wanted to move on from a relationship. A boy who deserved the chance to grow up, to play college ball, maybe to be somebody's father one day. He never got that chance. Whatever the sentence turns out to be, it will not bring Remy back. No sentence ever does. But for his family, for his community, and for everyone who has followed this case from the very beginning, what happens on May 5th, 2026, matters deeply. Because justice delayed is painful. But justice denied is something else entirely. And Remy's family has made clear they are not going anywhere until they see it through. Follow for part 2.